Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Noelle and I review and unbox subscription boxes here on my channel. Sometimes some awesome limited edition boxes, and that is the case with the book box that I have to share with you today. I'll actually only be sharing a fraction of it because there are several books and several gifts inside that go along with them. And I am of course talking about volume number 1 of the Bridgerton collection that was put together by Once Upon a Book Club in conjunction with the author of the series, Julia Quinn. So I was prompted to get this going finally because I actually got this first volume back in 2021 when they released it, because I just received volume number 2 with the final 4 novels on my doorstep this morning. So my plan is to do a series of 7 videos. I'll explain why 7, not 8 in just a moment. It's doing one per month, so that'll bring us all the way through July, and hopefully we will all get to enjoy season 3 of the Shonda Rhimes series as well. But we love series here, and I love Bridgerton too. I kind of thought it wouldn't be my taste, you know, I'm not really into romance movies or novels, but I did think it was a delightful romp, if you will. I liked the reinterpretation, the modernization, and I kind of love all of those period pieces, all the stolen glances, what have you, in those kinds of novels. So I did go ahead and watch the series, binged both seasons, and I enjoyed it, and I knew that I would have a lot of fun with these boxes as well. So we're going to start, of course, with the first one, and I will share with you the price, which was $129.99, and I believe with that first volume, the one I just showed you, the second volume looks very much the same, but maybe a little bit bigger. The first volume, though, that has the first 3 novels and 3 gifts to go along with each, had a value of around $225. Now, the second volume was actually a little bit more, and again, that has the last 4 novels, and that was, let me see, $165, and they're saying the total value on that one, books and gifts included, of course, was $365. That has 2 gifts for each of the 4 books. This one has 3 gifts for each of the 3 books. So we're actually getting 1 extra gift technically in this one, but I was a little bit concerned, of course, like you probably are too, doing the math, being like, but there's 8 novels, so why are there only 3? Where do we get novel number 4? And of course, just kind of looking at the weight, the shape, and the size of the gifts in this first volume, I realized that probably the third gift for book number 3 is book number 4. So it's actually, we really have 8 gifts and 4 books. So I will probably combine book number 3 and 4 into one unboxing, one review, because I have no gifts to open for book number 4, and that of course is why we will only have 7 videos in this series, because we are learning to like series here on this channel versus the 8. So hopefully that will get us through July, and hopefully you all enjoy it, especially if you enjoy Bridgerton. I definitely love reading the book. I usually try to read the book before seeing a series, but in this case I think it just kind of enhances the experience, of course. So let me just share with you some of the other items that came along with this box. I'm gonna have to make room for it. So one of the things is the classic quote card. So in the monthly Once Upon a Book Club subscription that I also review here on the channel, and for which I will leave a link as well as a coupon code that will save you 10%. It's just Noelle10, super easy. I think that may actually work on the Bridgerton collection as well. You can still get volume number 2, the one that I just received that they just shipped out. You cannot get volume number 1, which is with the gifts that I'm sharing with you, but you can still get the first 4 books by themselves. So you'll have the entire collection on your bookshelf, and I think they're all going to look really lovely together. So we did get the book, of course, and this is what it looks like. So you can see it's more of an illustration. It's not the beautiful actors that we're used to seeing on the series. It's pretty thick, but I was very surprised just because of the weight of the paper that they used. And the pages still feel nice and thick, but it's very lightweight. It is not super duper heavy. Like you're not going to press flowers with these unless you put all 8 on top of them. But I know that some people were lucky enough to have Julia Quinn actually color the inside pages. I was not one of those people. I think there were only like 10. Again, I'm trying to recall back to 2021 when this came out. But everyone did get a signed copy from Miss Julia Q. So I don't know if there's any signed copies in the next volume. I kind of hope so, but I'm not really sure. And then, of course, we did get a nice Once Upon a Book Club bookmark as well as our quote card. So the quote this time around found was, he grabbed her hand and pulled her body against his. "I burn for you," he said, touching his lips to her ear. So kind of a sexier quote. Kind of looks like old school label maker. But I don't really do anything with the quote cards, but I know that is like one of the features of Once Upon a Book Club boxes that everybody loves. People collect them. So of course we had to have one for this Bridgerton box. I wonder if we will have one in the next one. I honestly haven't opened it at all yet. I will say that with this volume there was one item that did not fit inside the box, and so it came in an outer mailer, and this time the box did not come in an outer mailer, but it's still in pretty good condition because it's fairly glossy. We also received, of course, instead of our usual guide, Lady Whistledown's Society Papers. Very exciting, and it actually tells us the date. It says Tuesday, June 20th, 1821, but I believe it was actually 2021. So let me go ahead and read that to you in my worst British accent. Dearest reader, at long last, the event of the season has finally arrived. It is this author's greatest pleasure to introduce the entire ton to the stunning and highly anticipated Bridgerton box by Once Upon a Book Club. For those just reading this newsletter for the very first time, this author's focus is primarily on the Bridgerton family. Within the pages of these novels, you will meet the most prolific family in the upper echelons of society. Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne, Eloise, Francesca, Gregory, and Hyacinth, in order from oldest to youngest. Take the attention of all high society as they each embark on their journey to find love and happiness through the most intimate times in their lives. Within this box, you'll find 3 gifts for each of the first 3 novels in the Bridgerton series. The Duke and I, which features Daphne Bridgerton, Anthony Bridgerton and his novel The Viscount Who Loved Me, and the oft-forgot second eldest Bridgerton brother, Benedict, and his story in An Offer from a Gentleman. I must caution you, do not let your excitement overtake your senses. While these gifts may beckon to you, this author must advise you to not unwrap these packages until you arrive at the corresponding page. Don't worry, for this author has included reminders at the exact moment for the moment the gifts may be opened, which you'll find inside each book. I welcome you to pour some tea and find the most secluded reading nook so that you will not be interrupted as you embark on these romantic journeys along with the entire Bridgerton family. This author cannot wait to share all of the details of the Bridgertons with you. So cozy up, dear reader, keep plenty of nourishment close, and let us start from the beginning. So again, when I do read in a British accent, forgive me, because I definitely slide back and forth between the different society classes, if you will. Inside, we have another classic feature of a guide from Once Upon a Book Club, which is a conversation with the author, which I probably won't read all of that to you, but I do think it's kind of neat because they got to talk to her, and it was after the Shonda Rhimes series came out. So the questions are, when did you first find out that Shonda Rhimes was interested in adapting your books? From there, how involved were you in the development of the show and the scripts? Books and the screen are 2 very different mediums. What do you think the Bridgerton series will bring or add to what's already been established in Bridgerton the books? Was there anything that didn't make it into the show that you really wished had? And what was it like being on set? They also have, for our little kind of craft or extra article, a DIY mini croquet set, which I will not be doing. And then on the back, it tells us, this is very helpful, the Bridgerton family tree. And of course, I didn't honestly notice in the television series that they all are alphabetized. Somehow that totally missed me. But we did have the Bridgerton Glove Story Challenge. You were supposed to use everyday items to recreate this photo. Get creative. Think toilet paper, food, old clothing, etc. But I felt like I read about it in the Once Upon a Book Club Facebook group, but I felt like it was very specific to have to recreate this image holding the book. I totally understand, use the book in the image, but just, I feel like anything that kind of looked of the time or looked of the series would be a little bit of a looser interpretation. But I didn't do it because, again, way behind. But they did, to help us out with your glove story, give us some gloves, which I also read in the Facebook group that they were running a little bit small. So I wanted to show you, but this is like a little extra gift. So really we got basically 10 gifts in this box, if you count the gloves and you count the 4th book. So I'm just noticing that mine has a bit of a run. It's not a run, it's actually that my pearl is missing. So you see there's a pearl sewn on this one. There is not. not on this one, but a lot of people were saying they ran a little bit small. I do like that on the right-hand side there is that little patch so you can still use your electronic devices, but I don't think I'll be doing that. But let me go ahead and try them because I do have kind of long fingers. They do have some stretch to them. They're very sporty on the inside. They kind of have like a driving or a golf glove look to them. And again, it does have that patch, so they actually fit pretty good. I mean, my fingers are a little bit long, but very pretty if I was going to tea, or I don't know. If I wanted to be very fancy when I was reading, I won't keep them on right now, but I thought that was kind of a nice addition to the box, and they did come in this nice, lovely, like dove gray color. So, like I said, there are 3 gifts, so as usual, I will read the passage associated with it and share the gift with you. Again, you can't get this box anymore, but you can get the first 4 books. There is like a mini box with one of the books, and then there's also, you can check out their store, there's a whole Bridgerton collection section. You can still get volume number 2, and hopefully I will be able to read along with you. So the first one was on page 120. This is very quick reading, these books so far for me. Might help that I've seen the series, but you know, we'll have to see how it goes when I get to a book that I haven't seen the series for, because they're kind of starting to skip around a bit. So let me see. I will probably try to read in a little bit of an accent. Let's see. I'm going to go back a little bit. So, what did I say? All right. Your plan is a brilliant success, at least for me. Did you notice how many suitors came to call this morning? He crossed his arms, the tulips dangling upside down. I noticed. It's brilliant, really. I've never had so many callers in a single afternoon before. Mother was beside herself with pride. Even Humboldt, he's our butler, was beaming, and I've never seen him so much as smile before. Oops, look, you're dripping. She leaned down and righted the flowers, her forearm grazing the front of his coat. She immediately jumped back, startled by both the heat and the power of him. Good God, if she could sense all that through his shirt and coat, what must he be like? Daphne colored red, deep, dark red. I should give my entire fortune for those thoughts, Simon said, his brows rising in question. Thankfully, Violet chose that moment to sail into the room. I'm terribly sorry for abandoning you for so long, she said, but Mr. Crane's horse threw a shoe, so naturally I had to accompany him to the stables and find a groom to repair the damage. In all their years together, which Daphne thought acerbically naturally constituted her entire life, Daphne had never known her mother to step foot in the stables. You are truly an exceptional hostess, Simon said, holding out the flowers. Here, these are for you. For me? Violet's mouth fell open in surprise, and a strange little breathy sound escaped her lips. Are you certain? Because She looked over at Daphne and then at Simon and then finally back at her daughter. Are you certain? Absolutely. Violet blinked rapidly, and Daphne noticed that there were actually tears in her mother's eyes. No one ever gave her flowers, she realized, at least not since her father had died 10 years earlier. Violet was such a mother. Daphne had forgotten that she was a woman as well. I don't know what to say, Violet sniffled. Try thank you, Daphne whispered into her ear, her grin lending warmth to her voice. Oh, Daph, you are the worst. Violet swatted her in the arm, looking more like a young woman than Daphne had ever seen her. But thank you, Your Grace. These are beautiful blooms, but more importantly, it was a most thoughtful gesture. I shall treasure this moment always. All right, you guys, so we got in page 120. This is what the packaging looks like. And again, Once Upon a Book Club always does such a lovely job of it. I'm, as always, impressed with how much they managed to fit neatly into that box, and was not surprised that they had to add one extra little box. This is very cute. So we got some faux flowers, and they are, of course, tulips. The tulips that the Duke brought over, and it even says on the ribbon, oh, that's so cute. The ribbon actually has the quote on it, which I'm not going to untie, but they're not bad. The leaves are a bit rubbery, but from far away, I think these would actually look like pretty good tulips, so I might have to use them for my props for some photos, or every once in a while when I don't get to the florist, because, you know, the demanding little nobots require their fresh flowers. Those are fresh. Those are real. Don't you worry. All right, you guys, let's see what we have on our next page, which was 244. And if you haven't watched the series, I highly suggest it. It is a bit racy. The book is very racy too, but you know, sometimes we can handle that a little bit more, especially if you are watching in mixed company. It's like a show that I would have a hard time watching with like a parental unit, for example. Let's see. I'm going to go back a bit. Let's see. Okay, so Daphne forced a smile. Is this a family heirloom? No, he said, with enough vehemence to make her blink. Oh, yet another awkward silence. He coughed, then said, I thought you might like something of your own. All of the Hastings jewelry was chosen for someone else. This I chose for you. Daphne thought it a wonder she didn't melt on the spot. That's so sweet, she said, just barely managing to stifle a sentimental sniffle. Simon squirmed in his seat, which didn't surprise her. Men did so hate to be called sweet. Aren't you going to open it? He grunted. Oh, yes, of course. Daphne shook her head slightly as she snapped back to attention. How silly of me. Her eyes had glazed over slightly as she stared at the jeweler's box. Blinking a few times to clear her vision, she carefully released the box's clasp and opened it. And couldn't possibly say anything besides, oh my goodness. And even that came out with more breath than voice. Nestled in the box was a stunning band of white gold, adorned with a large marquee-cut emerald, flanked on either side by a single perfect diamond. It was the most beautiful piece of jewelry Daphne had ever seen. Brilliant but elegant, obviously precious, but not overly showy. It's beautiful, she whispered. I love it. Are you certain? Simon removed his gloves, then leaned forward and took the ring out of the box. Because it is your ring. You shall be the one to wear it, and it should reflect your tastes, not mine. Daphne's voice shook slightly as she said, clearly, our tastes coincide. All right, so, of course, and the nice thing is, you're probably wondering, because usually it will just say the page number, but it did actually say which book it went with, so you can see in those faint letters there that it's For the Duke and I. Same thing, this one says it's For the Duke and I on page 244. So, of course, it's usually pretty easy to guess what we're going to get. Now, this was a little bit surprising because, of course, they did say that it was an emerald, and this is a lot more of a pale blue, which I don't mind at all, but the jewelry in these boxes never tends to be of the highest quality. It's not a literal interpretation with the marquee cut emerald and the diamonds on either side, but it is very sweet. I do wish that it was, even for costume just fun jewelry, that it was open so that one could adjust it, because it's rather small. I would say it's probably a size 6. It is too big on my pinky finger, and I could jam it onto my ring finger with a little success. But then it's just a little bit too tight, and I usually wear a 7, so it might have even been a little bit small, but this was a small-ish ring, so I feel like a lot of readers might have been a little bit bummed to get such a small ring. Then we have one last one on, of course, page 402, which was the last. Now, 402 was here, and you can see there's quite a bit extra because we have the Bridgerton second epilogues, which are included, where we get a little snippet of Daphne and the Duke's Simon's life, like many years later after they've had many children. We also get some behind the book, meet the Bridgerton family, and meet Julia Quinn. Lots of extra information, of course, which I think is kind of cool. But this just comes on the last page, so I don't necessarily have to read a ton of it to you, but I'll read a paragraph or so. So let's see. Here, she said, holding David, their child, up. Do you want to hold him? Of course. Simon crossed the room and took the baby into his arms. He cuddled him for several moments, then glanced over at Daphne and grinned. I think he looks like me. I know he does. Simon kissed him on the nose and whispered, Don't you worry, my little man. I shall love you always. I'll teach you your letters and your numbers and how to sit on a horse, and I shall protect you from all the awful people in this world, especially that Whistledown woman. Break. And in a small, elegantly furnished chamber not so very far from Hastings House, a young woman sat at her desk with a quill and a pot of ink and pulled out a piece of paper. With a smile on her face, she set her quill to paper and wrote, Lady Whistledown Society Papers, 19 December, 1817. Ah, gentle reader, this author is pleased to report. So I'm kind of reading it, I feel like, in the voice of an older lady. Maybe that's the influence of the series. But of course, there is our first clue. We find that it's a young lady who is actually Lady Whistledown. And I did read somewhere that Julia Quinn did not actually know who Lady Whistledown was when she first started the series. We got, of course, a lovely quill. So it looks like a beautiful calligraphy pen. There's actually an inkwell. You can see there are multiple tips. I used to do calligraphy when I was younger. I thought it was really fun to practice, and there's lots of different quotes that you can write out to practice all of the letters, but I do find it very enjoyable. So it does have this plastic there, and then we have a little bit of writing, and I can't actually read what it says, but isn't that feather pretty? And so then it's got this lovely like leaf here as well, and here is our point, and usually you just have to spin these to remove the tip. I'll have to like see, yeah, so it actually just has like a little spot where you slide that piece in so that you can use it. And we got the little inkwell as well. So I actually thought that was fun to write your own society papers, or maybe just to keep track of all of your Bridgerton readings, even if they happen to come a bit later after it's socially acceptable. So nice little inkwell to have on your desk. I thought this was a really good beginning to this Bridgerton series. I'm sorry that I took so long to get around to it, but hopefully you will join me for the rest of the unboxings. There will be 2 more for volume number 1, and then of course we will do all 4 of the books for volume number 2. I will see you all very, very soon though in my next unboxing.